haven't been here in a hot minute. In fact, I haven't been online in a hot minute, so I probably have some explaining to do. This is going to be a paranormal podcast for those of you that are brave enough to join the circle. It's a lifestyle podcast today, so stick around. If not, that's okay too. It's been a pretty crazy 6 months. I almost quit social media, if I'm being completely honest. And I know that's kind of a staggering statement. I went through a major transformation in the past 6 months, and I was not planning on sharing it. Probably about a month ago, I had a dream from my spirit guides and my spirit team, and they said, if you don't share this with your collective on Earth, you are doing them a major disservice. And they said, but it's up to you. And I woke up feeling a lot of like immense guilt over that. Sort of this roller coaster that I've been on for the past, since February, essentially. And so I have a lot to fill you in on. I know I sort of went ghost and sort of disappeared for a while. Majority of you are going to tune into this on my podcast. My podcast is my biggest platform. I'm very, grateful to you guys for that. I still have thousands of downloads every month, even though I haven't been uploading. So I appreciate you all. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be very honest because you guys know that I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to tell you everything as it is because my spirit team told me that someone out there may need to hear this. So we're going to get a little deep today. We're going to get a little deep. We're going to talk about this sort of transformation that I went through for the last 6 months. I call it my final metamorphosis, Phoenix rising moment. I wouldn't have come back to social media if it wouldn't have been for some really, wonderful people that I have in my life. When I was a producer, and when I was working in LA, I did make friends with some A-list celebrities, and I never name dropped them. And I'm not talking about anybody in paranormal. These are people way bigger than that. They gave me sort of this oomph to get back up and keep going. And one of my dear friends said to me, Crystal, like Hollywood's a dog-eat-dog industry. Like they're going to chew you up and spit you up 1,000 times. And, that last time you didn't get up may have been that one time that was going to be, your make it moment. And so she was like, get back up. She's like, don't give up on Ghost Girl Diaries. Don't give up on your dream. It's not over yet. And so because of what she said to me, I got back up. I've recorded this video probably 7 times, and I haven't posted it. And I haven't posted it because I keep feeling like I don't have the right words to say. I keep feeling like I'm not, relaying the messages correctly of what I've gone through, and my spirit team was like, stop, you're overthinking, just say it. And I was like, okay, all right, I will. So we're gonna do it. I've had a lot of human interaction with like spirit guides where they show up in your 3D, where like random people on the street will show up in angel form and they'll walk up to you and say something really like predominant that just happens to be something you're going through in your mind at that moment. I went in Walmart a few months ago, and this like 70-year-old black man came walking up to me, right out of nowhere, and he goes, young lady, I need to have a word with you. I was nervous because I thought that he assumed I was stealing something because I look alternative, and I was like, uh-oh, he's gonna be upset with me for unknown reasons. And he goes, young lady, I have to tell you something. He goes, your spirit team is very strong and they're standing behind you and they told me to talk to you. And I said, oh, okay. I was diagnosed with cancer. I'm 72 years old. And he goes, the doctor told me you need to start chemo and radiation treatment and all this stuff. And he goes, I said, no, I'm not doing that. And the doctor said, what do you mean? And he goes, if I came in this world and God let me, then I'll go out of this world if God's requesting me and requiring me home. And I got kind of teary-eyed, and he left the hospital that day, and he said I never went back for any cancer treatments. And he basically cut out like sugar and went on like an extreme like vegetarian diet, started drinking like bottled water, and essentially eliminated the cancer cells. He went back a few months later, and they couldn't find cancer. And the doctors were dumbfounded because he didn't go through any treatments. And he said, the doctor just looked at me confused, and I said, I told you that if God wanted to take me, he would have taken me, and he said it wasn't my time. And he looked at me, and I was just like really shocked that this stranger out of the blue, this 72-year-old black man walked up to me out of nowhere. By the way, he did not look 72. He looked great for his age. But he said, the moral of this story and what I'm supposed to tell you is, if there are people, places, and things that irritate your spirit or your soul, eliminate them because they are bad for your health. He goes, and it was weird because at the time I was convinced I was having a gluten allergy. Okay, like I've always had gluten problems, and I got allergy tests for gluten. It wasn't coming back that I was allergic to gluten, but I could swear up and down I was allergic to gluten every time. And I love pasta. Okay, like I could eat. I should have been Italian. Like I could eat pasta 24/7, right? But it makes me like sick, severely sick. And so it was weird that he brought that up. He's like, yeah, people, places, and things. He's like, eliminate it if it's not good for you. And I was like, wow. And at the time, I was still sort of navigating this new life without some really close friendships in my life. He goes, you'll know if something doesn't feel right for you, and eliminate it. Don't ask questions, just do it. But it was really powerful. And I've had several of those interactions that have happened, in the last 6 months. I was turning from this caterpillar into, an actual butterfly. And I had a lot of friends that did not like that I had emerged from the darkness. And I was really hurt by a lot of people that were very close in my life that I had to remove because they were really dark for me. I was also concerned at the same time because I had some cousins come out of the woodwork. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I've eliminated a lot of my family many years ago. I was the black sheep of my family. They hated me for numerous reasons, mainly because of my sobriety. And so when these cousins started reaching out in February, I just knew it was a matter of time before they started telling the whole family who I was. Basically, my cousins and my family, none of them knew about Ghost Girl Diaries. None of them know about my filmmaking. None of them probably even knew I moved to Los Angeles. I bet they don't even know if I live in Las Vegas, honestly. Like, that's how much of a strange relationship we have. They came out of the woodwork one by one, and it ended up going into part of my dad's side of the family as well. And they started contacting me to the point of almost harassment. It was almost daily. I would block them. They would create new profiles. And I just had this like gut instinct that it wasn't going to be a good interaction. And it went from, hey, how are you? To manipulation of, I need you to call me, I need help, which was a tactic that used to work on my mom because they all have drug problems and financial problems. And my mom would jump up and call and help them and send them money and wire them money. And I think that because my mom's gone, they don't have that outlet anymore. And, take in mind, through this contact that they're all emailing me and messaging me, one, none of them have given me condolences for my mother. Not once. They knew she died. They knew how she died. None of them gave me condolences. And then two, I haven't spoke to these people in like over 15 years. Like, it's been a very long time. And they're strangers to me is really the only way that I can word it, is these people are strangers. But it turned into manipulation. Then it turned into begging me for money, begging me for help. Then they started messaging fans that were, leaving me comments on social media, and they were harassing fans. And I shut down. I completely shut down. Because not only did I feel like abandoned by a large, 8 of my friends that just didn't want me to emerge from the darkness, some of my best friends, in fact, but I also had my family coming out of the woodwork. And it was people that I just wished they would go away. I wish they'd never find me. My guides told me I needed to explain why I was the black sheep. And I've probably skimmed over this a few times and addressed it a little bit. My family essentially exiled me from the family at 13. I was, my grandmother, my mother, and myself were really the only sober ones in my family. I never did drugs. I never tried drugs. My aunt was an alcoholic, and then she just sort of passed, the alcoholism trait to the rest of the family. So I grew up watching my aunt essentially slowly die from her alcoholism. And unfortunately, because I am Indigenous, it is very, very common for, ancestral trauma in indigenous families to have severe, alcohol dependence and drug dependence issues because of generational trauma. And my family is no different. And they didn't understand how I didn't need drugs to get high on life. They didn't understand why I enjoyed my life sober, that I didn't need to feel a certain way to be excited about something. And because they couldn't peer pressure me, I just became exiled slowly. And it really happened at the age of 13. Like, I just remember alcohol was slowly introduced to my cousins, and then it became drugs, and it was like, the gateway drugs, and it just got worse and worse. And most of my cousins ended up on meth, and most of them lost their teeth, and I honestly don't even know how they're alive to this day. Some of my cousins look like they're 90 years old, and they're not, from being on drugs for so long. And, they made my life hell when I was a kid, when I was 13 years old. 13 years old was a very pivotal year for me. I also had a friend, if you've read my book, I had a friend that committed suicide. It was one of my best friends, and I should have been in therapy, and I wasn't. But I was in a really dark place. That was really when I started learning more about paranormal and the other side. And to put it bluntly, that's where I became fascinated with death. I never became fascinated with death enough to actually die, but I wanted to know where you went because my friend was gone. And I just went to a dark place. At the age of 13 was really when my alternative goth phase started. And on top of that, I can't really escape it at school because my friend died. And then at home, I'm just being completely bullied from my cousins. Like, I had a couple of cousins that would try to beat the crap out of me. And, I've said this in podcasts before, but I'd be standing in my aunt's kitchen. I feel like I'm having a flashback right now. I'd be standing in my aunt's kitchen and I would just be minding my own business and not paying attention to my surroundings. And one of my cousins would just come up and sock me in the face and really hook me right in the face and knock me down. And, my cousins were smaller than me, so I would oftentimes overpower them. I was also very fit because I was a cheerleader, but that wasn't a fun thing to experience. So I was constantly on fight or flight around my family because the toxicity that went in, my cousins that had drug problems. And I was also, my mom was constantly trying to save them. They were always in and out of jail. I told you guys that my mom and I went homeless a couple of times. We lived out of her car a few times because she was busy bailing people out of jail because of drugs. And I guess at the time I couldn't understand why she wasn't just, don't spend your rent money on my dysfunctional family. Make sure I have a roof over my head. I'm too little to figure out how to make, money to have a roof over my head. So it created a lot of uncertainty, unsafety in my life. My mother was a great mom. She was sober. She just felt like she could save everybody. I used to say she had Mother Teresa syndrome, that she felt like she just had this magical touch and she could heal and save everybody. And I think that to this day, my cousins are just used to her always being there because up until she died, she was still doing things for them. She was still wiring them money. She was still sending them money. And I think that now that she's been gone for a few years, the next person they look at is me. And, I started getting these threatening messages from them where they're like, we're watching your social media, we're watching everything you say, where we hear everything you say about us. And it just took me back. I had to do a lot of shadow work the last 6 months. I didn't realize I had a lot of unhealed trauma from them. And it was weird because I was having internal dialogue with myself where I was saying I'm really unfazed by haters online, right? I'm very unfazed. When Ghost Girl Diaries was in its prime, on YouTube, I had millions of views going, right? You guys know that who've been watching me on the old YouTube channel, right? And I got bloggers writing, crap about me, tabloids writing crap about me. locals writing crap about me, like people saying I'm dating celebrities that I'm not, that live in Las Vegas, people saying I'm stalking celebrities that I'm not, that live in Las Vegas, like all kinds of hurtful things, just because I have ties into like the paranormal community. And it didn't faze me. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, I have an 8th house moon. I have an Aquarius moon, so I'm very private. 8th house is usually like taboo, secrets. So I keep my relationships very private. So oddly, when hurtful things are said about me online, especially like in context of relationships, I laugh because I'm so private of what's going on currently in my life that whatever tabloids are saying or people are saying online about me isn't true. And it actually makes me happy because it makes me realize they're like way over in left field and they actually don't know what's going on. And if that means protecting my private life, like people didn't know I was married for most of the time on YouTube. People didn't know I was a stepmother and I had 2 stepkids. And the reason I wasn't talking about my marriage was to protect them, because sometimes I would get stalkers and men would just show up to my door, and the kids of the mothers of my 2 stepkids were concerned for their safety, right? Like, so they were like, please don't talk about, their names, them, like, so people don't even know. There's like a whole side of me that people don't even know. Meanwhile, there's all these people just spreading rumors and trash online, and I'm just letting them, because I would rather they were spreading those rumors online about me if that meant keeping my stepkids safe, right? But it also created this really hard shell of like an alligator skin. Like, I have a lot of friends that are influencers now. Like, I mean, bigger than me. I only have 60,000 on TikTok, but I have friends with 200,000, even millions of followers, okay? And they cannot handle the heat from the hate you get online. It doesn't bother me. And I figured out that it doesn't bother me because of how bullied I was from my family when I was 13. And I realized that the only people that could really break me down and tear me down are my family. And so when I started getting these threatening messages and like they're watching everything I do, like I shut down and I was like, I'm not uploading ever again. I'm not going to upload any content ever again. If they're watching me, they're watching everything I do. Like, it made me physically violent. It made me feel physically sick because I don't want them to know what's going on in my life. I don't want to know them. I don't care. Like, I just don't care. I've been disconnected from them for so long and I don't have fond memories. Like, it sucks because I have beautiful memories of my cousins and I when we were little, like probably up till we were 10, or at least till I was 10. And then alcohol and drugs started getting involved, and I don't have fond memories after that. And I think that maybe they still hang on to those memories and I don't. I can't outweigh the times I went, my aunt and my mom asked me to go into the sewers of Denver and pull out my cousins who were like tweaking out of their mind and almost overdosing and dying, and they were living on the streets, and I would have to go with my boyfriend to go find them and pull them out of the streets. And like, those are the memories that I have that linger in my forefront, not the happy memories of us as kids. And just seeing them all strung out. Like, I remember how miserable holidays were. Like, I remember my mom was sober, my grandma was sober, I was sober, and that was it. Nobody else was sober. One of my uncles was sober, and that was it. And everyone's just tweaking. They're going in my mom's bathroom, and they're snorting, up their nose. And, like, I was like, why am I like, how in the hell did I incarnate into a family like this? When I am so, like, anti-drugs, I've never done drugs, I don't do, like, and look, if you live a life of sobriety and you've come out of it, I applaud you for that, right? Like, I don't judge anybody that's overcome sobriety, but I do judge my family who, they ruined our family. Our family is totally ruined because of the drug and alcoholism issue that was so widespread in my family. And I don't have fond memories. I have memories of living in my car because of the drug and alcoholism, and my mom was the only sober one able to go around and save everyone. She was essentially trying to, help my grandmother be the matriarch of the family and keep the family together. And in the process of that, I suffered a lot. And, so for these people to come out and start threatening me, I had this really rough moment where I had to shut everything down and go into hiding. And I was still uploading a little bit, but not a lot. And it was because I had this fear they were watching. And I know they're going to probably listen to this or watch this. They know my success now. They know, me being a filmmaker. They know Travel Channel. They know Ghost Girl Diaries. They know everything. And I had to have this really in-depth conversation with myself where I was like, you overcame them as a child. Like when I turned 18, 19, I said I'll never speak to them again. And I meant it. And I did. I never spoke to them again. And I'm like, I'm not revisiting this. Like, you have a choice. Do you want to let these people back in or not? But remember, to me, you can probably see me on camera, physically shutting down. They make me physically tremble because of how dysfunctional they are. And I was like, if I let them back in, my life is going to be destroyed. And my mom, even before her deathbed, she said to me, don't ever let those people come back in your life. Protect yourself. She said that to me. And I take it very, very serious. And I really had to work through some shadows of are you going to let them haunt you and ruin your life again? And the answer is no. I'm not going to sit here and be complacent and shut my social media off and my empire and everything I've worked for. And P.S., you haven't seen the best of what's coming yet, right? I'm just about to get back up again. This was a big test from the universe to see if they could knock me down. And they may have knocked me down for a little bit. And that's my resiliency. When I overcome things in life, I might get knocked down. And I might get knocked down for quite a while. My mom's death and her murder, it knocked me down. It knocked me down for a bit, but I will get back up. It might take me some time to catch my breath, but I will get back up. I am very stubborn. I have 5 placements in Aries in my 10th house of career. You cannot mess me. I'm a fiery fireball. You're not going to stop me, I really just went back. I had contacted one of my cousins when my mother died, right? And I knew this one cousin would tell the rest of the family because I thought I at least owed them that. And I told my cousin, I said, my mom was killed and this is what happened. And she was on the phone with me, and she was probably on drugs. She was pregnant. She was screaming at me, told me that I was lying, said that I was making it up, how she died. And she told me that I was making this up to take the attention away from her being pregnant. And essentially that she wasn't going to tell everybody what I said because I was being dramatic and I was making it up. That's how my family treats me. And then 2 years later, I turn around and this person also messages me again and says, oh, I have a son now. He's 2 years old, blah, blah, blah. I'd love for you to be a part of his life. No apology, no accountability for what they've done. No, I'm so sorry for your loss, for your mother. No, it's all about them. I want to show you my kid. I want to show you my son. I want you to be a part of my life. Because what they are wanting is for me to send gifts and presents and money and feed their drug habits. And I'm not doing it. And you're not going to take my life away. I've been on my own, away from those people, no contact for 15 years. My life is good. I was in a freaking Motionless in White music video, man. I got to work with Elvira. I don't know how much better it can get. It's gonna get better. But that's if I decide to get back up, right? If I decide to stay down and bury myself, it's all over. I just got to do a Black Veil Brides, collaboration with Curse Cosmetics. I can't let these people ruin me. Last October, I started studying dark psychology and I started learning how people manipulate you, and it just came full force with my family. And then I was going to quit. But it was almost I have this friend who has quite a big following on social media. She lives in Australia, and she's a divine feminine, and she talks about I'm friends with her in her personal life, but she teaches balancing your feminine, your dark feminine, light feminine, and then also your masculine energies. And she told me on the phone one day, she was like, you've been in your feminine energy since December. She's like, it's time to bring some of your masculine back out. You have to even it out now. She goes, masculine qualities are setting firm boundaries, speaking the truth, communicating, and having, dedication, perseverance, and being committed to something. So she goes, if you're committed to Ghost Girl Diaries, you have to just cut these people out and not allow them to affect you anymore. And I said, I agree. So it was really strange because as all of this was happening, which was like February to May, you know how I've been having all of these like predominant dreams where I can communicate with my guides. They cut me off. They cut me off. I had no communication with them from February to May. And I was panicking. I was like, did I do something wrong? Like, they're not talking to me. They're not communicating. I was getting answers instantly. I would go to sleep that night and I would have a dream. I was with my guides and I was having this meeting. And all of a sudden, I think what they were teaching me, by the way, was to just trust my own instincts. I don't have to always rely on them. Whatever you decide, you know, you trust your own instincts. You don't have to constantly go to us for guidance. And I really needed that reassurance. So they sort of like cut the cord with me with that. But then all of a sudden I woke up in mid-May. It was just a random day. I woke up with a full, like, I guess you could call it psychic medium abilities. I don't know what else to call it. And I feel like I'm crazy saying that because I've never experienced this before. I don't know what's happening. I was very upset and confused at first. It took me a couple of months to understand the gifts that I had been gifted. I could hear my guides audibly. I could immediately ask a question in my head and I could hear them as if they were standing right next to me. And because I've been having these predominant dreams for 2 years where I'm talking to my guides, I knew each one. I knew exactly who was talking when they were talking. I feel like I'm gonna start crying. When I woke up, and I just all of a sudden had mediumship abilities, right? It was loud. It was horrible. It was like you have a radio station on full blast all day, 24/7. But it wasn't like mumbly. Like, it was clear, crystal clear. And I was like, but it was like I could hear 4 of them talking at once. I could hear them having conversations. I was like, am I losing it? Like, am I going crazy? Like, what is going on? And I would talk to them and ask a question. And like, I remember the first day when I woke up in the morning, it was so loud. And I was like, what the hell? Like, is there a television on? Like, am I losing it? And I asked a question and I heard my guide say, welcome to your new timeline. And it was loud and it was like almost piercing loud. And I like jumped and I looked around the room because it was so clear. I was like, do I need to sage my house? Like, I don't know what I need. Like, and they're like, you need to calm down. They were talking me through it. Like, you need to calm down. You know, you don't have to dream about, you know, asking us questions anymore. You can communicate directly now. And I was like, okay, it's loud. Can you turn it off? Like, and they're like, you're going to have to figure out how to do it. And I couldn't. It took me months. It took me months to like, it's like a radio station. I have figured it out now. But you have to tune into certain radio frequencies and shut it off. But when it first happened, it scared the living crap out of me because it was loud 24/7. And I mean, like, my guides were loud and like I just could hear constant talking. And I was like, I'm losing it. I'm gonna go to the loony bin. Like, this is insane. I don't know what I'm experiencing. I actually stopped driving for like 4 or 6 weeks because it was so loud. I was scared to get in my Jeep and drive because I didn't want to wreck, because I was like, it was so loud. I was like, what if I can't hear a siren? Like, it was that bad. So eventually I was able to figure out how to turn it off and then turn it on. I can literally turn it off and turn it on. And I started, you know, talking to my friends about it, and they asked me to read them, essentially. And I started reading my friends, and they were like, holy crap, how do you know all of this? And I was like, I don't know. I can just hear it coming to me. I can hear information just flooding in, and I'm just saying what I hear. I ended up going into a organic dog food store that's here in Summerlin in Vegas. The woman must have sensed I was like had abilities, but remember, this is when I'm really new to my abilities and like I'm still not familiar with how they work. So this woman came up to me and I was looking at dog food and I was trying to decide, you know, a brand or whatever. She hands me a picture, and it's a picture of her and her dog. Of her father and her dog. And I hold the picture, and I was like, oh, at first I was like, oh, this is so sweet. Like, who is this? Because I was like, why is she handing me a random picture? And next thing I know, I'm having a full-blown, like, Long Island medium episode. I wish I could explain what happened, and this is where I struggle with this podcast and how to put it into words. I believe what happened was my higher self stepped in and I sort of took a back seat in my body. and my higher self started just channeling all this shit about this woman's dog and her dad. And I'm channeling, like, that the dog wanted to take the cancer away from him, and like, he would have done that to, like, save the human, and, like, he was very, like, I mean, I had this woman in tears, okay, and, like, I had no idea what was going on, because the information's coming out, and I can't stop. So that's how I felt like I was almost, like, not in control of it. It was like all this specific, detailed information. By this time, there's, like, 3 other workers have come around this woman. I end up finding out she's, like, the owner of the business, and she's bawling her eyes out and hugging me and thanking me profusely. I just literally channeled her dad and her dog. I know that some of you are going to be like, oh, that was so cool. And some of you are going to be like, how did you do it? No, let me tell you how it felt. I felt immense guilt over it. I felt horrible. I felt like shit, if I'm putting it honest. I left, I bought my stuff, I scurried out of there. Eventually I came back where I was in control. And I left, and I went and sat in my Jeep, and I cried for like 30 minutes. And I screamed at my guides. I was so angry with them because I had this woman in tears, and it felt evasive. It felt so invasive. I felt guilty, and it felt invasive. And although the woman was happy, she was hugging me. I healed her. She was like over the moon at what just happened. I did not feel that way. I felt like I just overstepped a major boundary, and I didn't even mean to. And I don't even know how that happened. And then my guides were like, you had to know how powerful you are now. And that was the only way that we could test it, was by doing it with a stranger. You've got to trust that the messages that are coming through are real. And this is the only way that we could prove it. And I said, fine, don't ever do that again without my permission. Don't ever do that again without my permission, because that freaked me the F out. Okay. So I got a little weird after that, and I didn't really want to go to a lot of public places for a few weeks, because I was like, I don't want to just start channeling to people. I love Teresa in Long Island Medium, but I don't want to be her, okay? And so then I had a dream. My dreams started coming back, and my guides said, okay, we need to know, what do you want to use this gift for? Do you want to channel people? Do you want to have, like, what do you want to do? And I was like, no, I don't. I want to use this for communicating with the other side. And they were like, okay, that was what the original purpose was. They were like, I asked them, I said, can you just take this gift away? Like, I just don't want this gift. I just don't even want it. And they were like, no, we can't take it away. It was always meant to happen this way. And they were like, you wrote this in your blueprint before you got here, so it is what it is. And they were like, you're the same on the other side. So why, by you not accepting this gift means you're not accepting who you truly are. So don't complain about it. So it took me a few months to get comfortable with this, and I'm still not fully comfortable. To use this gift with the living is very uncomfortable for me, to be honest. I am seeing things fully. I can see apparitions, like a full apparition standing there. I can see, in fact, I had to put up a boundary with my guides and say, do not show them to me in their state of death, because it's traumatizing. And so yeah, I just had a lot of changes. I had a lot of changes with my abilities. I did not know I was going to end up here. I did not know I was going to end up with full medium abilities, but here we are. I was just getting lessons and lessons over and over and over again until these abilities came in. So to me, it was almost like from February to May, I had to pass all these lessons. I was getting the same lessons over and over, like this over, like, different people, same lessons, and boundaries, and like trusting my intuition. It was like, finally, I passed all the tests, and they're like, okay, she can have her abilities. She's passed the test. It was a very stressful time. I ended up going to Colorado the first week of May to bury my parents, and that was really difficult. I also met with a realtor, and I was approved for a home loan, so I'm looking currently for a house. I don't know where I'm going to be at. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I'm looking currently in Vegas and New York. I like the Sleepy Hollow area. It was kind of an outskirts of Sleepy Hollow. I went to Colorado to look at houses, decided not to go back. I had a lot of my really close friends from my childhood, and they were like, you've outgrown this place, you can't come back. And I felt the same. So I won't be returning to Colorado. I have about 6 months to make a decision on purchasing a house, and so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to stay in Vegas or not, but I mean, of course, I'll take you guys on the journey with me if I do decide to leave, but it's going to be a major, major life change if I do go to New York. I do have a support system there, so it's another reason I would go there. Also, you'll have a support system in Vegas, but I just can't decide what to do. So I'm currently looking for houses, so we'll see where I end up. I really got connected to my soul family for the past 6 months, and this is people that, are people you've probably reincarnated with many, many times. And I did have some of my close friends come back in my life that left my life in February. They came back in and apologized. But it's interesting because I feel like I had this major ascension, this major level up with energetically who I am as a person. I'm very, very sure of myself. I'm very sure of who I am. And I've never been in this position of power of where I know exactly what my future looks like. I know exactly, I mean, as far as like, Ghost Girl Diaries is still in pursuit. And on my birthday, which is May 10th, I had a really dear friend fly out from Dubai for my birthday. I've known him since we were like 7 or 8. We both experienced the loss of our friend Derek, who killed himself when we were 13. And it's weird because, we stay in touch. Like, anytime something happens in my life, he's the first person to text me, and he lives in freaking Dubai. Like, he literally lives 12 hours in the future, and he'll be the first person to text me, And, he lives literally on the other side of the planet. And he came into Vegas to see me, and he's Muslim. His family actually escaped Gaza when they were, I think in the late 80s, early 90s. And so he's Palestinian, and we're very close. He's one of my best friends. We've never really gotten into the conversation about life and death and my soul family. It's going back to that theme that I've experienced in my soul tribe. And he said, I want to talk about Derek's death. I want to hear your opinions on it. I gave him a signed book and, one of my books. And I was like, no, you're Muslim, and I understand and I respect your religion, and I would never try to disrespect that. We've known each other too long. We grew up very privileged. I've said that before, but I really mean it. We grew up with Vietnamese kids and Hispanic kids, and I was indigenous, and white kids, and, Mexican kids, and, every color under the sun. He's Muslim, and we all grew up very close, and, although it was the suburbs of Denver, we just grew up very, very sheltered, and we learned, even through the eyes of our parents, to respect each other, respect each other's culture. And then as we got older, we got shell-shocked because we realized how much hate happens in the world. And my closest best friend's soul tribe is from elementary school, and we are from all different nationalities, and all of us just can't understand the hate that goes on because we just didn't grow up that way, And so anyway, I said, no, I don't want to disrespect, your religion. I don't want you to ever think I was stepping on your toes. And he's like, no, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. It was like a therapy session, and it was like the therapy session I needed. He said that Derek, in my book, if you've read my book, I talk about Derek was one of the really strongest, predominant energies I've experienced on the other side and in the gray zone. And that he would visit me in dreams and tell me he wasn't going to cross over because his sister found him hanging, and he wasn't going to cross over until his sister goes to the other side, essentially. And Hassan had the same dreams, and we've never talked about it all these years. And Hassan was like, in the Muslim religion, you believe that, if you commit suicide, you go to hell. And he's like, that's bullshit. He's like, I don't believe that. And it was just really, really, it was like I was at home, he's married and has kids, but we're still very close. We're still best friends. He's like a brother to me. If I ever remarry, I might ask him to actually walk me down the aisle again because he's just known me, longest, so one of my longest friends. And that's how I view him, as like a sibling, since I've known him since we were so little. It was just a really therapeutic, healing conversation we had about the other side, and we were crying, we were hugging, we were crying, I think he felt validated too, knowing that we both experienced the other side with Derek. Hassan said something so funny to me. He said, I've known this guy since I was 8, so when we look at each other, I think we still see the children in each other's eyes, and he goes, I'm not shocked at all that you became a producer. And I was like, really? Like, why? Did I always give that hint? And he was like, yeah, you did. I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you always controlled the talent shows. He goes, I remember in elementary school, you're, 8, 9, 10 years old, running the production. And he goes, I'm dying laughing because I forgot. Like, once again, he sees me as this younger version of myself. He goes, I remember being like 9 years old looking at you being like, how does she even know how to do that, man? Like, he's like, you'd have a checklist and you'd have like, which is such a producer thing to have, like, a list, and like you're going around telling everybody what time they need to be on stage. And he's like, I would look at you and be like, how does she know how to do this? Like, he's like, every year consistently you were running the talent show. We were in the talent show. He was always in the talent show with me. He did, one year I was Jasmine and he was Aladdin. I think that was 3rd grade. And another year we did another talent show, which was, we did Rock Around the Clock, which was a 50s song, and dance. And he was my dance partner. And, we did a 50s dance. I got to wear a poodle skirt and I choreographed the whole thing. I was always into dance, as you guys know. And, he was like, yeah, I knew you were going to be a producer. He's like, that was just like who you were as a kid. And I was like dying because it was like, I forgot. Like, I didn't even remember that I was like involved with that, because I was always on stage with my dancing and singing and my bands and stuff. And it was really, really healing. I kind of told him what was going on as far as like my family. And he was like, dude, you've come too far. He's like, you wrote a book, bro. He's like, not many people can say they wrote a book. He's like, you've won like, 6 or 8 film festivals. He's like, you won money for them. You're like best director, best documentarian, paranormal investigator. You've been on television how many times? He's like, you've worked with Motionless in White. You've worked with Elvira. He's like, you can't stop now. He's like, you can't. He's like, I don't want to hear any excuses. And it was just like, it was like what I really needed, because he is like family. And it does feel isolating when you're an only child and both of your parents die. It feels, and especially for me being so isolated from my family, I know I have really good friends. I know I'm surrounded with a good community and a good support system, but it's just different when your parents are gone. And he's somebody that I respect enough that I know would step in and like sort of slap the shit out of me. And that's what he did that day. And, so it was a great meeting to be with him. Then after he left after my birthday, that was when I woke up with these abilities. My guides told me I need to vibrate at such a high level that I can't allow anything to faze me anymore. And they said that I have to allow everything to fall away because I'm at a vibration, an ascension after going through the experience, walking through the shadow side, walking through hell, walking through the death and rebirth of my mom's murder and healing and coming out the other side. They were like, nothing can faze you. So stop, like, don't let anybody, even your family, if that's the last bit that you have to like get rid of as far as haters, they were like, you have to learn to just, nothing's shocking, nothing's sad, it just is, and just vibrate high. And I said, I told my guys, I don't want to upload this video. I don't want to upload a video at all. I just want to go away. And they're like, why? And I said, because I don't want my family to watch. And they were like, why? And I said, because they're haters. Like, they're putting me down. Like, I don't want them to inspect everything I say. I don't. And they said, wait a minute, stop. They said, you're on a path to fame. They said, this is something you were always destined for. And they said, even when you are triggering your haters, whether that's fans and people that absolutely hate you, people that watch you, or even family, they said, you are still doing them a service. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, if they are watching you, they are trying to get on your frequency. They're trying to get on your level. If they are inspecting everything you say, and they're taking back and running and writing a blog about it or a vlog and talking crap about you, and every time you do an upload, they're watching your every move, you are still triggering them in a good way. Because my guide said they see something within you they wish they could see within themselves. They are mirroring you. So you are still helping them ascend, whether you know it or not, with haters. And they said, you have to still continue to progress forward, even with people hating on you, because they are trying to meet you at your level. They don't understand why you're living this life of getting everything you want and obtaining everything you want, because you're vibrating at such a high level with ascension They don't understand why they can't do that too. And my guide said they can. They just have to ascend higher. And the first step is sort of stop, divulging in low-level stuff like gossip, making up stories, writing blogs online, whatever, talking crap like my family. And they said, so you're still helping them ascend. But they said, whatever you do with the information, like if you're sitting there on camera, my guide said this to me verbatim. They said, if you're on camera and you're talking about something you went through and you're teaching an ascension lesson, and somebody comes along and they take that lesson the wrong way, they skew your words and manipulate it, they said that's none of your business. They said once you blurt out the information and you give your, soul tribe your information of what you've gone through, what you're going through, or teaching them how to connect with the other side, they said what they do with that information is none of your business. My guide said, if you have haters, if you have fans, if you have family that's coming on to hate you, and they don't understand what you're saying, that is none of your business. If they choose to take the information you gave and manipulate it and do something else with it, that is none of your business. They are still a part of your soul tribe. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just kind of took a seat after that, and I decided to not allow my family to affect me anymore. You sort of have to be in this energy of maintaining like constant contact between your third eye and your crown chakra. Like everything I do anymore, I'm always connected up here. Like, even when I'm out in public, I was getting those messages before where I could hear people's thoughts randomly, or so I feel like my guides were showing me the direction this was going to go to. Like eventually I was going to step into mediumship abilities, but I did not expect to just wake up one day with those abilities. So it's been definitely a learning curve. I'm better now. Like I'm focused, but I did not want to come on here and make a video while that was going on because I wasn't even sure how to explain it. I wasn't even sure if I could control it. I didn't know what was happening. So I'm just kind of in a new era of what Ghost Girl Diaries is going to be. I think it's going to be me being able to connect with them on a psychic medium level, which actually makes me really happy because, my biggest goal in paranormal, if you've watched any of my documentaries, is teaching people that the other side exists, is teaching people that it's not always dark, and teaching people that sometimes these souls need help crossing over. Sometimes they don't know they're dead. Majority of the time, 98% of the time, you're going to run into a soul that does not know that they're deceased. They're stuck in the gray zone. And I've always wanted to be a person of the light that could help them through that. And I think this ability is now going to be able to help obtain that goal. I want to do another podcast where I teach you guys how to connect to your higher self. I've been guiding and sort of mentoring some of my close friends on it, and if they can accomplish it, then you can. So I'm going to do that in a separate video. Just know that we all have destiny and free will. I had this dream with my guides, and I walked into this room, and there was a person, and they were very busy, and they were running this almost round circle conveyor belt. It's huge in this room, probably a 6 foot room, and this big belt. And it was going and going and going and going around and around like a treadmill. And I said, except it was thin, looked like a train track. And I said, what is this? And they said, it's your fate. The fates are involved. Everything that you've ever wanted, everything that you've dreamed, manifested, Ghost Girl Diaries, that's your fate. That's your end goal. It's real. It exists. You just have to get on that timeline. And I said, oh, so the fates exist. Oh, yeah, everyone has the fates. The fates are on their side. They exist. So they said, this is your room of fate. This is your lifetime currently that you're in of fate. And I said, so how does it work? So the guy steps out from the machine and he stops the wheel. And he goes, you can stop it. You can add things on it. You can take things away. You can make it go faster. You can slow it down. But the only thing you can't do is reverse it. And I said, so does that mean you just can't go back in time? He goes, so learn to live in the now. You can change and manipulate anything you want in your future. You can make it better. You can make it worse. It's all up to you. It's in your hands. Destiny's in your hands. You just can't go backwards. So time is of the essence. Literally, I saw my wheel of fate running and how much time I have left on this earth to accomplish what I need to accomplish. And I think that's something a lot of people don't get. How do you obtain wealthy status? How do you obtain millionaire, billionaire status? How do you become a famous person? Whatever your end goal is, it doesn't even have to be famous. It's that people focus on what they want and they don't worry about what else is going on outside of it. You know, it's like self-discipline. It's sort of stepping into that masculine side of, I'm disciplined enough to not worry about what's going on around me, to be able to focus on my fate, and they do exist. So I just thought that was really important, something for you to learn. I want to just give you one message that my guides gave me before I go. And one of the last things they said to me before I did this podcast was, you don't realize how strong you are. If you knew who you were on the other side, you would never speak to yourself like that again. And I said, does that fit for me or for everyone? And they said, everybody. So don't speak to yourself negatively. That you really are the vibration of what you attract. Remember in February I told you guys that I was thinking something, it was showing up. That's still happening. It's still happening. It's worse now. Like, I can think something and the next. Now remember, when you're manifesting and you're on a high vibration level, you're not talking down to yourself. You're not, you don't have negative thoughts running through your heads. You're not doubting yourself, right? When you're vibrating at a high level, sometimes it still takes the 3D a little bit of time to catch up, right? So sometimes my manifestations are really big and they don't come in immediately. They come in a couple of days later. So I'll talk to you guys about that next in the next podcast. But I just hope that you're still working on remembering to eliminate negative thought processes, because that's the only way you're going to get to your highest timeline of your fate, your wheel of fate, of what you're wanting to accomplish. So the last thing is do I return to social media? And the answer is yeah, I do. Ghost Girl Diaries is just going to be me for a while. I really like Bailey Sarian's layout and how she kind of does it on her own. And I think there's a lot of floods with podcasts right now, so we need to be a little bit careful, not to just sort of get lost with like having all these guests and all that stuff. So I'm going to do it a little bit different. I really like the new layout that I had of the werewolf one that I did for the werewolf, the Rougarou in Louisiana. But that's where I've been for the last 6 months. It's been a lot of negotiations back and forth on trying to decide if I was going to come back or not. And I decided to not let these people win. The next big thing I'm about to face, though, is where am I going to move? I don't know if I'm staying in Vegas. I'm either going to be in Vegas or I'm going to be in New York. And I'm facing some major changes in my life. So hopefully you guys will be there with me for it. I hope everyone's doing wonderful and beautiful. But it's time to pick up and keep going, okay? I took a few years off. There's no more time off now. Now it's go time, baby. I love you.